The process of change and transformation is doing things differently, thinking differently, acting differently, feeling differently. And if it's subconscious or the body, we've practiced something so many times that the body now knows how to do it better than the conscious mind, and the body literally is the mind. The servant has become the master. Now, if it's been conditioned into that known familiar past, that known familiar feeling, and then the person runs through the same routine every single day, you can predict what they're going to do every day if you're watching them because it looks a lot like yesterday, then they're in the predictable future. So people get trapped there, and the body's comfortable as the mind in the known. It is the unconscious mind. But if you program it to be the mind, then we go unconscious. So the moment the person decides to leave familiar territory, come to an event, practice in a meditation going further than they normally go. I see this, I just saw it last week. The body does whatever it can to unseat the person. So the body's saying, oh, don't go to that event. You could really change. So let's create an image. The body begins to influence the mind, saying, oh my God, this could happen or that could happen. And really what it's saying is, I can't predict the future. And if I can't predict it and it's an unknown, I'm going to move into stress and survival because the unknown is a scary place and better chances to run from the unknown when you're living in survival. So this is so common amongst the beginning students in this work because their brain conjures up the worst case scenarios in their mind just so that there's a subconscious belief or reason for them to say, I don't want to go, or I don't want to sit through this meditation. And the body gets nauseous, the body gets headaches, the person gets pain, their bladder feels like it's going to explode, or they're getting ready to go to an event and they're imaging all these terrible things that could happen to them because that's the body saying, believe in this thought, believe in this image, that'll lead to the same choice, which will lead to the same behavior, which will create the same experience. And you'll return back to the same feeling, the familiar feeling of living in that same familiar past or getting back in your routine of your life in the predictable future. And if you do this, your life could be a mess. So the body in its conditioning is influencing the mind to stay in familiar territory. Now, by the same means, the person who's living in the fear of the unknown will create images of what they think the unknown will look like based on their past. They'll select the worst case scenario in their mind and prepare for that so that if anything less happens, there's a better chance of them surviving. So does that make a huge effect in the quantum field? Not too much in the beginning because the emotion of fear has strong chemistry and it has a powerful energy. But fear also creates a contraction of the field. We use our life force and turn it into chemistry. So it has an effect, but in the long term, what it does more than anything is it conditions the body further into fear because the body, when that person is seeing that, is believing it's living there and it doesn't know the difference. So it would take several acts of selecting that potential in the quantum field and living by the feeling and the emotion of fear to begin to produce the outcome. It will happen ultimately if the person obsesses about it, but the first thing that it affects is the body. You're conditioning the body to become the mind of fear. So now it's more afraid of the unknown. So is it changeable? Absolutely. Absolutely. It just means then that the person has to be trained on how to be in the present moment. They have to be trained on how to watch the body go into that aroused state during a meditation. And then in that very moment, instead of quitting, instead of taking a drug, instead of laying down, instead of calling up friends saying something's wrong with me, instead of doing all of that, sitting down and lowering the volume to that emotion and taking their attention off that thought. When we do that properly, we're telling the body it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. And if you keep doing that, you're training the body, conditioning the body into the present moment. And just like training an animal or training anything, sooner or later, when you train it, it's going to begin to respond in a different way. So the process of change is tedious in the beginning because you're working against those strong emotions and those strong images. But if you keep returning the body back to the present moment and lowering the volume to that emotion, and the body can relax into the present moment, you keep doing that, sooner or later, the body's going to acquiesce and there'll be a liberation of energy. Fear will then be returned back into the person's field. Or better yet, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And so when they feel the arousal of fear and their brain is creating the image of what that future could be like, as they lower the volume to their emotion, they're going to take their attention off that future and disinvest their attention and energy out of the known future and make room for something wonderful in the unknown. In fact, if we can condition our brain and body to understand that if we're truly in the creative process, the unknown is not going to be scary. In fact, it's going to be just the opposite. We're going to be surprised by what we're creating, and the act of being surprised by the event in our life is the unknown. It comes in the unpredictable. It comes in uncertainty. It comes in a way that you least expect. That's what makes it so exciting when you create. So it's none of our business really how it happens or when it happens. We leave that up to the organization of the field and its divine intelligence to do it in a way that's right for us. So yes, the brain always goes to the worst case scenario. Yes, in the process of transformation and change, there's a battle. And many times, the worst battle to finish the war is one of the last ones, because the body will do everything it can to unseat the person to return back to the familiar, to the known. And that's how powerful the body has been conditioned to be the mind. But I can tell you, I have looked at thousands and thousands of brain scans, and I have witnessed people of all shapes, of all sizes, of all colors, of all cultures, of all ages, of all health, sickness, all diets. I've seen people do this, and it's tedious in the beginning, but I can tell you, when the body finally surrenders to a new mind and there's a liberation of energy, the energy moves right up into our hearts and we start to fall in love with ourselves. We start to fall in love with life. We see life through the lens of beauty again. We feel connected. We feel like everything's just how it's supposed to be, and it's always worth the effort.
Thank you so much for your question, Anna. We're now going to put another of our live callers on. Mario, you're on the call.
Hey, Dr. Joe. Hey, everybody. Surprised by the synchronicity today to be here on the call. It's been a long journey of cycles, digesting a lot of your content and teachings and all the digital information and bridging back and forth, family and all of that. The question that came up today was, when you speak about rising to the heart, right now I'm going through the analytics there, but in terms of speaking and the tonality of the voice and the expression, there's something there that it's not a question in particular, but I just sense that there's something that you can speak to there today and bringing clarity in terms of not only reading people, but expressing ourselves and our joy and what we learn consistently, because like I said, it's been cycles, and trying not to judge my experience, but yeah, that's what it is.
Sure. Well, Mario, thanks for doing the work, first of all. And I assure you, I have the same challenges. It's a lot to process. I always finish my day, and I ask myself what I learned, how'd I do, and what do I know? And I spend a little time thinking about that, because if I don't think about it or contemplate it, then I don't have any meaning behind what I'm doing. We have stumbled on so many things in this work. I was on a research call this morning with some scientists in putting together the right language for the world to be able to comprehend and understand. But when we live by the hormones of stress 70% of the time, and our thoughts are typically not very supportive of ourselves, they tend to be more negative or limited. This has a lot of biological effects, and stress is when the autonomic nervous system switches on, and the sympathetic branch of that system sends the body tremendous amounts of energy to adapt to whatever the threat or the danger is. So if we keep living that way, and the autonomic nervous system keeps moving out of order and balance,